Right, everyone. Is everyone set with recording access and all that? Not message me. We're going to start with some opening remarks from Coach Locksley, and then just message me or use the raise hand function, and we'll get to your questions for Coach. So, Coach, if you're ready, we'll start.
Sure. Appreciate that, Dustin. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Obviously, the 2025 class for us here at Maryland is a special class, one that I believe will elevate the Maryland football program. A lot of these guys we started recruiting before we started that 3-year run. Some of the phone calls I had today are guys that I can remember starting their process as 8th graders. I can remember Bryce Jenkins playing for the White Oak team that went down to Florida to play in the championship game, talking and offering him as an 8th grader. I can remember Malik over there with the Maryland Heat as an 8th grader. And so a lot of these guys made a decision to come to Maryland prior to, or started the process prior to the 3-year run that we had up to this season. And the players that we have here have left a really good runway for our incoming class. When I talk about this class elevating, you can't elevate without separating. And so when you think about separating, you think that, the last 3-4 classes that have come through here have really left a foundation that we are going to be able to build on. And now with this new, college football landscape, we're afforded an opportunity to build on it. And this class will give us just that. A few things about this class that I love. Number one, I think 4 of them have already won state championships or some form of championships. And I think 6 are still competing for a bunch of them. Over the years, we've always talked about owning the DMV and controlling this area. And if you look and see the job that, a guy like Coach Scott has done going down into the Virginia area the last couple of years and being able to take a guy like a Jalen Gilchrist out of there and Christian a year ago at the quarterback position. We've really been able to do a great job here in D.C., Maryland, and now down in the Tidewood area that has not been really fruitful for us. But what makes it even better for us is that we also have created this national brand by being a part of the Big Ten. And the way this league has expanded, it's opened up our opportunities throughout the country. We signed, I think, 5 D linemen. We went heavy on the O-line a year ago and through the high school ranks. I think 11 of the 20 are scheduled to enroll early, which gives us the opportunity to have them here for spring football and training starting in January, which is huge for us because it allows our players to get these players to get acclimated to how we do things. And then lastly, I want to thank all the coaches, the staff, as well as the professors here on campus, our administration over there, Xfinity, for it takes a village to recruit these days. And a lot of times I get credit or we get credit as just the coaches that go out and recruit these guys over the years. But I can tell you, man, from Pooch to Mercy, even to somebody like Brian Griffin, who's come here, as our chief of staff, there's been a lot of people that have put the effort, energy into it. The back room, Casey Wasserman and Tegan and Marcus Thomas and those guys, the job they've done in the evaluation process. Here at Maryland, when we recruit, especially the high school rankings or the high school area, we typically, for every one commit, we got to recruit 8 to 10 guys. And so when you think of signing 22 guys, and if it takes 10 offers to get a commitment, that's a lot of players to evaluate and make decisions on. And our back room has done a tremendous job. And now, we've been able to use a lot of the analytics companies to also give us information in who we sign. And so it takes a village, and we have some great staff that have done a tremendous job. The professors on campus from all of our different areas of expertise have all given us their time and energy to recruit these guys. And those relationships that we've created here over the years have allowed us to put a historic class like the one that's coming in here in our 25 class. And I'm excited about it. After a tough, long year where we didn't meet the standard that we had, it's great to finish the 24 cycle, 25 cycle with signing these players who have endured this tough year along with us. And all along the way, I just kept thinking, help is on the way. And I'm excited with this class that's coming in to represent us and help us build on this runway that the previous guys have left us. And so with that, I'll open it up to questions.
All right, thanks, Coach. As a reminder, we're going to use the raise hand function, or you guys can message me directly for questions. We're going to start with Wes Brown from 247 Sports.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, a little bit of a different cycle for you guys, being able to lock guys in early, not really having any late additions or subtractions. How did that maybe change things for you, not having to chase kids around at the end of the cycle? And what sort of went into that? Is it more of a focus on the portal these days, or just not necessarily, seeing the opportunities there late in the cycle?
No, I mean, I think it's the new landscape. I mean, as I've told our staff, we have to adjust how we see and look at the recruiting process nowadays. And, we've put a lot of time, energy, and effort. And obviously, for these guys, it's almost anticlimactic for some of the signing. It used to be a really big deal. And I think because of the business side of how a lot of these things are being done or getting done, it's more of a professional deal where a kid makes a decision, we meet and decide kind of what we both are looking for. And, it felt good for me to not have to really chase guys or the flips that typically have happened around here. I mean, it's a little tougher to do because of, there is money involved. There is, different things that are involved in this process, especially for the high school kid. Obviously, as I've said along the way, we've continued to build this thing with high school players, and now with the new money that will be coming to universities, it gives us a chance. And I've said this before, we've built this thing with the high school kid, and now with the resources that we're going to be given going into this next cycle of recruiting, I feel really confident that we'll be able to continue to build through the high school ranks, but also add some very valuable pieces through the portal that I expect us to continue to do here. And once the portal window opens up December 9th. So I think this is the new landscape, and this is how I see it moving forward. Even with recruiting in terms of guys, the days of all these taking pictures in front of cars and the boat rides and all those things have kind of have gone in a different direction. And now it's about the business of football.
We'll go next to Sam Jane.
Hey, Coach. First, I like the jacket. Nice look. Second,
Thanks, man. This whole thing, man.
yeah, look at that. Balenciaga too.
Pardon me?
Balenciaga too.
I mean, that's Under Armour, man. I don't know nothing about Balenciaga. I just know it has the shield on it. We're big Under Armour people around here.
I want to ask about Malik. Obviously, now you can kind of talk about him at a more length. What's the thing that impresses you most about him?
That he is so relatable. I mean, he is one of those guys that can transcend. I mean, it'd be like, I'm a big music guy, so he's a guy that could be a hip hop artist, a R&B singer, a country singer. He can maybe even be one of those folk song singers. I mean, he's just Hootie and the Blowfish. This guy, you can't put him in a box. And that part of it, I mean, the intelligence he brings. I've recruited Malik since he was an 8th grader. I watched how he built this Spalding program with his head coach there, and a lot like what we've had to do here at Maryland, and it has not been easy. They have not always had all the built-in advantages that some of the other places that they would play had, and he never once wavered, man. And to me, this kid has the sky is the limit for his talent level. He expects to come in the mailroom and work his way up. He doesn't want it any other way. He wants to come in and learn and be a sponge. And, we spent every Sunday for the most part of this season where we watch his tape. He'd watch our games, because after every game, when you got a guy like that committed, people would call and say, man, you don't want to go there. They suck. They're not this. And then, he had a chance to watch every play. We didn't hide from what we put on tape. And he had a chance to see and learn what this system is about, or will and can be about. And I think that in itself showed me who he was. And he's a special kid, man. And I'm really excited to have a chance to coach him. And he was a guy that we targeted, a long time ago, that, to come in here and help us elevate this program.
Go to Ed Lee with the Baltimore Sun.
Mike, I wanted to ask you about the other 3 4-star recruits, Messiah, Jalen, and Bryce. What do you see in each of those guys, and is it possible that they could start immediately?
You know, I've never been one of those guys that says whether a kid can start or not start immediately. We recruit and bring kids in with the mentality that we expect them to play early. Because if a kid comes in without the expectation to play early, he will have no chance at this level. With that being said, I also tell you that none of these kids have been brought in told that they are expected to be starters. They have all been told, and I'm on the record here to say that every kid will have an opportunity to come in to compete to start, as we have done with any and every recruit we've signed and what we've done with each and every position every year. That part won't change. And again, all 3 of those guys that you named, Messiah, Jalen, as well as Bryce, all are big time players that I think, as we've evaluated them over the years, should and will have the opportunity to come in and compete. And so to me, that part, any player that I've recruited has heard me say that, and it's no different for these guys.
As a follow-up, can I ask, what do you like about each of those guys?
Yeah, I think with Bryce, I think it's the heavy-handedness of an interior guy that has the twitch. You know, one of the things I always say is, some big guys are big guys that have big guy skills. He's a big guy with a little guy skill set, meaning he's one of those guys a lot like Warren Sapp. When I do comparisons, he's a guy that has that twitch inside that most interior defenders don't have. And so to me, that part with that big body, I mean, he could very easily be an All-American left tackle as he can be an All-American interior 3 technique nose guard guy. As far as Jalen Gilchrist, he has the body of those guys that I've had a chance to coach at some other places where, Jedrick Wills walks in the door at Alabama and starts as a true freshman. Jonah Williams played a lot as a true freshman. Alex Leatherwood. So I see him being that talent, his size, his athletic ability, his skill set, as well as our need to improve that position. So, with that, Jalen's skill set is a big athletic guy that has a body and strength that translates to being able to come in and compete early. I just watched a guy like Therese Davis and Michael Hershey as true freshmen come in and really do a great job and compete. I see him being in the same mold as those guys. And unlike those guys, he'll have a chance to be here early. He'll be here hopefully in January as he finishes up the work he has to do.
And I'm sorry, Messiah.
Pardon me?
Messiah.
Oh, well, so with Messiah, I throw Messiah almost into the same category. We're getting a great value because, he's a 4-star that very easily, had he played his senior year, he's a guy that had the ability to go nationally anywhere he wanted to go. But his range and losing players like Dante Trader and Glenn Miller that have been 3-year starters back there on the back end, his range, his length, he has what I call the quarterback moxie that you look for out of a field general on the defensive side. He has tremendous ball skills, which, when you play that position, we see him a guy that has the ability to play the deep part of the field for us and has the range, the length, and the ball skills that you want, as well as the physicality, man. And he missed his senior year, very similar to what Ty Felton went through his senior year, but nobody backed off of recruiting him, and we were very fortunate that Coach Luttrell and Zach Spavital, our safeties coach, and even the coach Azar, who helps there as a co-coordinator, all worked really hard to recruit Messiah and show him that we really do think he has the necessary things to be one of those guys that could come in and lead us on the defensive side of the ball.
Thank you.
Yep.
Go to Wayne Viner next.
I can't hear you, man. You got to unmute yourself on Zooms.
Thanks for the coaching tip. I was going to ask if you are going to say that it takes 3 years to build an offensive lineman, but you sort of answered that there. So I'm going to switch the question to these guys, as you said, are a lot more prepared. Some of them have agents. This is a different process. Do they look like a different age of athlete than the 18-year-old kid looked a few years ago? And with that, how much does it help to bring them in? How much of an acceleration process does it give you to bring them in early?
Yeah, you know what? I would say that they look very similar. I mean, the size and of the guys that we've been able to recruit the last couple of years. I mean, we learned very quickly that it's great to have athletes and skill, but if you want to win in this league, you know, what we just kind of went through here the last 4 or 5 weeks of our season has continued to show us that we have to continue to get bigger, stronger, more heavy-handed there in the trenches. O-line, D-line, tight ends, outside linebackers. And there's no doubt that when we target guys, we're looking for that size. You know, I don't have 3 years to develop a 270-pound offensive lineman like we used to have, because now with the financial implications that come with the new landscape, I got to get guys that can play now. I got to develop guys to play now. And that's why we even put the resources into the number of O-line coaches that we have working with these guys to try to expedite it. But we've also kind of went and now have been afforded the resources to go get a guy like a Jalen Gilchrist, who, you know, before I couldn't go get Jalen a year ago. I can go get Jalen now. And that's due to, you know, what our administrators have been able to do, what our supporters have been able to do to give us the resources to go get the type of players we're going to need to compete in the Big Ten and be competitive.
We'll go over to Meg Gaffier.
Hey, Coach. I know you got a chance to add a pair of running backs. Obviously, I know Iverson, he gets a chance to get there in January. But what kind of jumped out to you when you first got a chance to watch those two?
With Iverson's film? You're talking about with Iverson's film, my man?
Iverson and Bud, yeah. Just kind of, I guess, how you feel like both of them kind of fit in.
Yes. Yeah, with the two running backs, I mean, again, you know, losing guys like Roman Hemby and Kobe McDonald, I see those two being those type of players in terms of the skill set. When I think of Iverson, I think of that speed. And I can remember watching Roman Hemby's tape and seeing him being able to hit the home run. And, you know, Iverson has a nickname, the Rocket. And he's one of those low center of gravity, contact balance guy that really is a tough tackle because of the leverage he plays with. But he also has that ability as a finisher, you know, a lot like the Ray Rices, the Saquon Barkleys. Even, you know, I think back to, I had a guy here named Bruce Perry. And when I think of Iverson, I think of Bruce Perry, like comp, where, you know, I saw Bruce as a true freshman, man, come in and make a lot of plays. And as a sophomore, be the ACC Offensive Player of the Year. And I think Iverson has that type of ability. With Bud, I think you see is the changeup. I mean, he's the physical, heavy-handed runner, a little bit like the Blake Corum runner that we faced at Michigan. And I've had a chance to recruit Blake out of high school. And they both are very similar in that Bud is one of those guys that will consistently make the play, consistently finish falling forward. I see him being a guy that will have the ability to be a short yardage guy as well as catch the ball out of the backfield. Both those two and their skill sets are actually very complementary, similar to what we saw in Roman and Kobe McDonald here the last few years.
All right, we're going to go to George Gerbo next. George.
Hey, Mike. Half of your class is addresses the line of scrimmage. I was wondering is that still an area that you want to supplement coming up in mere days in the portal, or do you feel like you have the guys now that are going to be that unit and comprise that unit going into the next season?
So you're asking me if I'm portaling for any other positions?
Is there more to address on the line? I know you had guys.
So a year ago, we built this team, as I say, through the draft, is with high school players, which is why we signed the amount of high school players we did a year ago. And from a resource standpoint, is who we could afford to be a year ago. And we were really intentional about that. And you look at the O-line class we signed, I feel like we hit home runs on that group of 7, I think 8 guys that we brought in here, from the Szymanskis to Michael Hershey to Therese Davis to Rob Sock, to all those guys on those young old linemen. And so now, because of the new landscape and the money that is coming from the NCAA, it gives us the ability to go and get some guys to supplement us. I will again say we're going to always base ourselves with signing high school players to create the nucleus of our culture, but we will use the portal to offset it, much like we used transfers before. And there's no doubt we have some areas that we have to address. As I'm still in, unfortunately, we ended the season Saturday. Signing day is on Wednesday right after. I've been having end of the year meetings with players. I've been recruiting my own roster. We've, some guys have decided maybe to leave the place. And so I haven't had a chance to necessarily address some of the issues that we faced this year, but I can tell you that some of the glaring areas of improvement have to be up front on the O-line, which I saw us make strides with by the end of the year. And then the secondary, the corners, and now losing 2 safeties that have been 3-year starters, addressing that area. The front we've addressed, and so we'll continue to use the portal to maybe address some of those areas. Bring in a couple of linemen, bring in maybe a C area guy there at tight end, bring in some corners and safeties that have the ability to come in and immediately help us like we've been able to do with the Jacorian Bennett's, the Jaquan Shepherds that have come here the last few years and help us. And I anticipate us doing some of that here once the portal opens, and I expect us to be pretty active thanks to the resources that we've been provided this year.
Thank you.
Take just a couple more and then wrap this up. We'll go back to Sam.
Hey, Coach. Wanted to ask about the corner, specifically Jaden. Guy, I don't know how much you pay attention to rankings, but not necessarily the highest, but I think a lot of people are high on him. I just want to ask how corner's obviously a tough position to play, but you played a lot of young guys this year. How do you like his game, and how does he stack up to the guys you brought in like last year? Is there any kind of point of comparison you have for him?
Yeah, so I would put him not in a comparison of any of the guys we brought in a year ago, but I see him almost being Deontay Bankish in that, I think he's undervalued maybe because of, he plays at a place where they've had a lot of talented players sign Division I. But know that he was a guy that we evaluated in camp, that his skill set fit what we were looking for, that, his length and size, he kind of reminds me of what Glenn Miller was. Glenn came in as a corner, had length, size, could play the slot corner star position in our defense, and then transition to becoming a safety. Jaden is one of those versatile guys, but he also adds, one of the elements that people lose sight on that we really struggled at this year was the special teams value of big body guys that can cover kicks, that can block people in space, that can get people down on the ground. And you never can have enough of those guys and those bodies. The success we've had recruiting Archbishop Spalding and the type of players that Kyle Schmidt, who's a former Terp, has been able to produce. If you look at across our roster, we have quite a few guys from Spalding, and it's because of the value that those guys have created. And Jaden is one of those guys that will come in my opinion, and create similar value.
And we'll take our last one from Wes Brown. Back to you, Wes.
Yeah, Coach, obviously you had a little bit of experience there with the dual sport athlete in Bud, trying to recruit Dante before, a guy who's looking to play 2 sports in college. What was it like this time, a guy who was maybe a little bit more focused on the football side of things, but someone who again is, ranked as one of the top baseball players in the country, and I guess did Coach Swope give you a thanks today for that?
Me and Coach Swope have been really close for a long time. I can remember when he came back as an assistant, and I was here as an assistant, and much like me, a guy that grew up loving the Terps and wanting to be a Terp and was a Terp. We worked together on Bud. I mean, Bud is a tremendous baseball player. He's a tremendous football player. He's a tremendous kid, man. And, his mom, Sadie, and his dad, Buster, both have done a tremendous job, man. I am so excited because this guy can be the face of a program, both programs, and there's no doubt we're going to give him every chance to excel in both sports here. The game of football, I've been at places where we've allowed, I can remember, Darryl Whitmer back in our Orange Bowls year was a successful baseball, football guy, and I remember having spring practice and him leaving out of a scrimmage, running, and by the time I got in there, he had his baseball uniform, heading over to the Turtle to go play in games. And I'm looking forward, and I know our team is, of supporting Bud to be able to do both and do both very successfully. So excited for what he has done and will be able to do for both our programs. And he wouldn't be here if it wasn't as well for our baseball staff and the job they did recruiting him and selling him on how they plan to use him. So we worked really well together to get that one done. And we got a great player out of it.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate the time. Thanks everyone for hopping on. We appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dustin. Thanks, Coach.
So if anybody needs anything, just hit me up directly. Thank you.